Ever heard of the biopsychosocial approach to chiropractic care? Yeah, me either. Until today. On today's Nashville Wellness Collective podcast episode, we have chiropractor and owner of the recovery studio in Berryhill, Nashville, Dr. Shay Glenn, with his functional approach to chiropractic care. I am your host, Unique Cortez, and thank you for tuning in. The Nashville Wellness Collective is an online directory and resource with a myriad of health and wellness practitioners in the Nashville area that span from Eastern to Western modalities and everything in between. So, whatever kind of practitioner you're looking for, the Nashville Wellness Collective is your guide. Peruse our directory and check out all of our blogs and podcast episodes so you can do your own research and come to your own conclusions and pick the practitioners that you want to work with, the practitioners that you think will set you up for success on your unique path to health and wellness, because it's your journey and yours alone. And here at the Nashville Wellness Collective, we've got you covered from east to west. Please be sure to give this podcast a like and leave us a rating because we want to know your feedback. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss out on future episodes. Now, here we go into the world of functional chiropractic care. Without further ado, Dr. Shay Glenn. Thank you so much for being with us.
Heck yeah.
I gave a brief introduction, but if you want to give a more in-depth introduction as to who you are, what you do, and what got you into chiropractic work.
I think starting off where it all began is always easiest to tell the story. I was on my way to medical school already and all the classes together. And then my wife, actually, my now wife, then girlfriend, was actually going through some severe pain that was going from her low back down her leg. Everybody knows the word sciatica. And she went through the standard steps. What you're supposed to do in this world of modern medicine. Go to your doctor, get the diagnosis, and she got sent off for MRIs, imaging, things like that. And at the time, she didn't really know, and her mom didn't really know, that they were kind of fast-tracking her process a little bit too much. She was only 19 years old, so you should have a whole array of options to take that patient through, to get them out of pain and get them towards a higher functioning life. What ended up happening was they got sent off for the MRIs, and she was immediately in the room with an orthopedic surgeon that said, okay, well, our first thing is we'll try a steroid shot, an epidural. Try that. I was there with her in that appointment. Horrific experience.
Yeah.
She came out of the back because it's outpatient procedure, in, out. She was crying profusely, said it hurt so bad to get it done. She even felt like the needle was still in there for days on end after.
Oh, man.
So that was unsuccessful. Well, they go back to their drawing board or go back to the playbook of standard medical model. And they decide to, without physical therapy, without chiropractic care, without anything else, could have been anything else. Go for a walk. I don't know. But they sent a 19-year-old through her first back surgery. Invasive. So they did a microdiscectomy, which essentially is if a disc is inside the vertebrae, the section that's bulging out and causing the sciatica, they just shave it off. Now, logically, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Ooh.
It will, especially to a 19-year-old, if you remove bricks out of a building, over time, that building's going to be unstable. Unfortunately for her, I've seen actually decent results with microdiscectomies in the short term. Now, there's always another surgery because of those reasons, almost always. But she didn't have any success. None. So no decrease in pain. So that was her first surgery. A handful of months goes by because she goes through the recovery for that. And since it didn't work, got to go more invasive. So 19-year-old, first surgery. When she turns 20, she has her second one. And this is a spinal fusion.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people don't know about spinal fusions at that age. I have treated over 10,000 patients. I have given over 80,000 treatments. And that comes with so many micro conversations. Hey, your family dealt with that. Your person at the gym does that. So multiply that by times 10 of
Yeah.
how many associations to potential patients or talking about health conditions that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
She is still the only one at 20 years old that's ever had a spinal fusion.
Oh my
So it's
gosh.
horrific. It caused complications in her birthing process. We had to do a cesarean just because the risk was a little too high for her process. And spinal fusion, thank goodness it worked. Like, she did get out of pain. But here's the problem. Getting you out of pain shouldn't be your main thing. So that's the mantle I hold up now. It's not just securing your avenue out of pain, but it's securing your future for pure longevity, pure optimal wellness. So that's been the mantle and hill I die on now, is that prevent surgery at all costs, prevent necessities for drugs, anything that's in your medicine cabinet or in an orange bottle, and empower people to control their own destiny with their body. Now that takes some help. So inside my office, I call it the 80-20 rule. When you first walk in that door, it's usually about 80% my problem, 20% theirs.
Okay.
But what I historically do in here is I turn the table as fast as possible. Now that might set me different because I know a lot of practitioners, and not to knock the process or knock the business model. They figured out something that worked for them in their office to get them good enough results and to maintain a healthy business. That's fine. But I do believe some practitioners hold on to their patients for way too long, for too many visits, starting on contracts and 24 treatment plans, which I think is insane.
Wow.
But it's overkill. I don't think it's insane. There's times for it, but I would say historically, I reduce pain by 80-90% within 6 visits. Like,
Wow.
that's just quick. It doesn't take much. If you're given them the right time, you got the right procedures, which for a while in my first part of my career was just chiropractic only, right? Do the adjustment, get them in and out. That's how you were trained. Just get them in, get them out. Then you started noticing in high volume offices, I was treating 80 to 110 people a day.
Wow.
What kind of real good quality care can you truly get if the person taking care of you has to see 80 other people?
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Not with good results, not even on the doctor, and definitely not on the patients.
You'd be exhausted.
Yeah. I didn't want to speak to anybody when I got home.
Yeah.
There was a time I had to I called it my re-entry into the home. I had to come back in. It's almost like I've been away at war. And I just needed to just come in, sit on the couch, and just be quiet for 30 minutes. And my wife was always like, "What's wrong?" I was like, nothing. I'm spent.
Day's work.
But you also noticed that you weren't treating symptoms. You were treating symptoms up to the point where they would calm down enough that no one else would say anything. You weren't fixing it. You weren't empowering someone to be able to go be without you. You were being a better version of a pill or a better version of a surgery, but you were still, that patient is dependent on you. You have to show up once a week. You have to show up twice a week, 3 times a week, or they're in a bad spot. So you're not curing the problem all the way.
Yeah.
And that was driving me crazy. So finally, when I stepped out of other people's offices and created my own, I introduced cold laser therapy. I introduced dry needling. I introduced functional rehab. And I introduced so many other avenues that the majority of problems that come in my office, I can fix within 6 visits, or at least get them under control. Some people need maintenance. If you're suffering from a condition like degenerative disc disease, I'm not reversing that whole thing. But if you can be without my treatment for a month, 2 months, 3 months, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't have to show up at someone's office twice a week.
Yeah.
So the majority of my people will eventually just like a maintenance structure. So they see me 4 weeks to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Or they'll spot treat once a quarter, once a year, something like that. But they should be empowered to get to that point. They should be educated to get to that point where they don't need me as much. And that's not really in the language model of a lot of other offices because they're business first, doctor second. Sorry. I try to be doctor first, business second, maybe to my own detriment. I could probably have a way more successful office if I switch those around. But that's not important to me. I want to be able to go home and feel good.
Yeah.
the other 5 or 6 years of my life doing high volume practice, I went home tired and I didn't feel good about my treatment. I can go home every day happy with what I did. So that's more.
Yeah. So that explains what your backstory and what got you here, and a lot of passion in treating. So you approach things in a very like functional manner, like
Yes.
looking at the wider scope of things. So would you
to.
say that's something that sets you apart? Like, would you say that's something that makes you different?
Yes.
Is there
I
anything
make
else
problems more complicated on purpose, I guess. No, I don't think people take, if a knee hurts, a knee hurts. So they treat the knee. They don't look at the ankle. They don't look at the hip. They don't look at the history further than 2 weeks. So I try to do whole body. You get a little bit more complicated. You start wondering when you have a back problem that doesn't fix itself in the same amount of time as everything else. So every once in a while, 1 out of every 20 people that come in with the same problem, all of a sudden won't fix or won't get that same reduction of pain and retain their function for as long. And you start wondering why. So you start asking questions like, okay, so I work off of what's called the biopsychosocial model of pain. Okay. All right? Yes. Maybe that's what you're leaning into, right? I remember that. Unique already knows. Okay. So I draw a big circle, and then I establish that this big circle is Andrea's ouch. That's Andrea comes in. This is her hurting. Inside that big circle, there's 3 other circles. All right. And that's the biology, that's the psychology, and that's the social aspect. The body is what most people always will take care of. It's the easiest. Hurt there, fix there. Right. That should be simple, but it's not always simple like that. So what if, and Andrea also just got through with a divorce, lost a pet, lost a family member, job transition, just moved to Nashville. That happens a lot. And they're in a transitionary state. And then all of a sudden their back pain that wasn't bothering them for forever right now is on this downhill spiral of so many other things and creating so many other compensation patterns that if you didn't talk to them about the other things going on in their life, they're just going to think they're broken, which is the worst place for someone that needs to feel better about where they are. Yeah. Let them know they're not broken, and then you give them methodologies or understanding, because anxiety and fear is built off of misunderstanding. It's a lack of information. If you give them information, whether it be something that's actionable or just understanding, period, you will bring so much relief that psychology comes down. And then it begins with checks and balances. I took care of the body. Yeah. I'm letting them understand the psychology. And then the social aspect, because I can't change the fact you just moved to Nashville, even though it's a wonderful place with lots of friendly people. I can't change the fact that you might have lost someone. You can't change the outside factors, but it's a checks and balance system inside. If I get the body feeling great, I can tolerate the other circle that's overcharged or fired up. Same thing with the psychology. So I find it a lot in, we spoke about it one time before with like my triathletes. You would think those guys are so beat up, and they do have their bumps and bruises, but because they're so orderly with their lives, they're under control of it. They have to control so many things in their life that they don't have instability elsewhere as much. So they can take a body beating like some others don't. I have triathletes in here that feel better than some of my retired people that aren't putting their body through that much stuff, or even just the 9-to-5 worker that can't put in the type of workout plan our guy John does. Yeah. But their body feels worse off, almost like they are the ones trying to be a triathlete because their body tone is so locked up. And it's because they haven't been educated. They need to move more. They haven't been educated. They need to sleep better, hydrate better. Do you need to meditate? Do you need to do breath work? Do you need to relax? Do you need to realize that you're living up here or you're living way too down here? And you need to find your middle ground. Otherwise, your body's going to always be under alarm. These are the questions that are never discussed. Wow. Because in a regular chiropractic office, if you've ever been in one, it's 3 to 5 minutes. You're in and you're out. You had no time. But wait, I didn't sit. Footwear.
I'll see you next week.
I didn't sleep for like 10 days. Stuff like that. If you don't cover the bases, the whole model, it's just going to slip through the crack. It's almost a good business model because it keeps people coming back to you a lot.
Yeah.
Because you never give them the full scope of the answer they actually require or need. I only had 3 to 5 minutes to talk anyways. All my appointments are 30 minutes. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. You're in here for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Most people are in here just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And even when they don't really need to be, they just want to finish their conversation.
Yeah. I'm sure it helps. It makes such a huge difference.
When you give a breath of time, a room of space, and with that space becomes comfortability, people tell you more. You find out more about their life. Now that brings on the weight for the practitioner, but that's what we signed up for. We signed up to fix the whole person, not just an elbow.
The whole person.
I want to fix the whole person. Or I'm not going to fix you. You're not broken. You just need to be educated on how to maintain and improve, to live optimally. And that takes more concentration, more conversation, and a space that is a little bit longer than 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely longer. Can you give us some examples, some testimonials? Because I can think of, a few right off the bat, but I remember you had one girl who you said the center of her back was humbling you, and you're like, it is just stuck. It is so stuck. And
my wrist still hurt from that day.
You went into asking her more questions. Come to find out, she was in a car accident. Did you want to tell us a little more about?
Yeah, that's a good example, honestly, because I've had a bunch, but that one stands out the most because she's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she was like 19. It was her first year in college over here at Belmont. Yeah. Just moved here. She'd been treated in the past a bunch. She basically lived at the chiropractic office. That tells you something. 19-year-old just shouldn't have to see a weekly appointment. It makes no sense. But when I got to her back and I pushed on it, at first on the surface, I didn't feel a whole heck of a lot. There wasn't a ton of tightness, not a ton of asymmetry where one side was stronger than the other, weaker than the other, or anything like that. Not a ton of compensation pattern throughout. I call it the humblers because it's sneaky. It's underneath. It's underneath all the other layers of the tissue, and it's deep to the spine. So in our intrinsic muscles is where we store a lot of our tone. Now people will call, and this always creates a dividing line if I say things like tissues have memory. Now, some people hardcore believe that. Other people is like, no, it's tissue. What kind of memory do they have? There's not a little brain down there.
I believe it.
But what is this actually established is a pattern. Pattern of tone. The brain puts it there. Now that piece of tissue doesn't remember, but it is stuck in some sort of a cycle, whether that is motivated by one of my 3 circles more than the other. But this girl was 19-year-old, probably 105 pounds soaking wet, but had the strongest hidden underneath the surface back I've ever felt on someone that small. One of them. That's definitely happened before. But I got guys that are 300 pounds in here that are easier to move around than this.
Wow. Yeah.
I pushed in and I bounced right back up, almost like I was about to hit my own ceiling.
Oh, gosh.
And it didn't make any sense. And she said something along the lines of, you can hit me harder, or you can push harder, you can be a little bit more firm. I was like,
the girl.
I shouldn't have to be, though.
Yeah.
If trauma got it in there, I don't need to create a larger force of trauma to get it out. The body should be able to bring things out in ease. If I can't get it out with some ease, and it has to be forced, not saying that I don't bring the hammer down sometimes, but that should be on very rare occasion.
Okay.
You could tell that she was probably really hit hard every time they come in. To get cavitation through that amount of tissue tension, someone had to hit her really fast, probably very hard. And I told her I wasn't going to do that. That's not what needs to happen. So we needed to bring some ease to it. So I started dry needling, I started lasering, trying to get deeper responses of the tissue down below, trigger some immune responses, get it out its own negative feedback loops. And then started softening up, but it was going slow. And that's when I started asking the question, what trauma's happened here? Well, 2 or 3 years ago, I was in a car wreck. And they actually hit me really hard, and it shook me for a while. And she was like emotionally tied to that thing. So you can see how her psychological bubble was super tied to her biological one, whereas she still held on to all that. The brain did, the tissue did. I don't really care. I'm not going to die on a hill of terminology. All I know is she got hit.
Yeah.
Tissue stayed firm, intense for someone so small that wasn't doing that much working out, just your regular everyday stuff. But she had a back of a guy that was trying to pull Olympic style weights. It took 3 sessions of dry needling and laser, and I haven't seen her again.
Wow.
And we checked in on her because we were worried.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you? She was like, no, I've been doing fine. My mid-back's better than ever. And that's the idea.
Yeah.
She doesn't need me. She's 19 years old.
That's awesome.
Unlock the problem. The body does the rest. Yeah. I'm not a magician. This is, and the rest of you is.
Yeah.
Or are. Something. See, terminology. I'm not dying on that. I'm not going to die on it. She didn't require me anymore. And that's fantastic. That's and awesome. I'll be here when she needs me again.
Yeah.
When or if.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, that was a good one. I have a same exact scenario happen with a lady twice her age.
Uh-huh.
I think she's like low 50s. Okay. She said, yeah, my chiropractor really hits me. I go, you're 105 pounds.
Yeah.
You're in your 50s. You don't have a lot of muscle mass on you. Why are they hitting you so hard?
Yeah.
So I changed her mindset. I didn't have to do anything else, actually. I changed her mindset. I did more time on the table with muscle stim and heat and let her relax when she came in. She's used to coming in, getting out.
Yeah.
You can barely get out 6 words.
Yeah.
And they have to hit her very hard.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense to have to adjust that firm.
Yeah.
Now when she comes in for her routine, which she likes to be on like every 6 weeks, something really low maintenance. And I barely have to move my hands.
Nice.
It's a wild turnaround because the first day I was stressing to get things to even do anything at all. And I was like, I'm not going to hit you any harder than that.
Yeah.
And it was like that same look I always get like, are you sure? Are you going to do anything today? And that's when you have to rewire it. What you were doing before is another person's way.
Yeah.
And it's probably not the right way.
Yeah.
And I just have to sit them down and tell them what makes sense. Should me, almost double your weight and power and speed, have to do that to you?
Right.
To make an adjustment happen and to get a correction. And that's my methodology too. I'm not correcting things. I am establishing range of motion where it's lost.
I'm sure just like you said, coming in and being able to have those 15 minutes hooked up to the stem and the heating pad and all, just those moments of like peace and tranquility and like, just like you said,
it's your time.
Yeah.
People are losing their own time. They have to give it away. Yeah. Mostly because people are staying so in front of them because of the phone. So you have, even if you get off work, you have 12 people you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Or 12 podcasts to listen, something. There's almost too much that and not enough
of what you offer.
So even
here.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
When they first come in, when they lay down, I do a first little just scan. Just feel. Feel where look for balance issues, I look for tone issues, and then I feel it all. Okay, here's the spots. Sticker pad, turn it on, put some heat down, and then let them sit. 15 minutes later, sometimes for those really high stress people, it's like a different human being's laying on the bed by the time I get back. And it's not even 15 minutes. It's 8 to 10. Wow. If they wait longer than that, it's because I didn't hear the buzzer and I just no. It's usually 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay,
8 to 10 minutes. Yeah. And then a little bit longer for conversation, just to check in on things and what I feel. So total, it might get to 15 minutes if they're laying down before I start to work.
Okay.
But it doesn't take much. Just give them the time, give them the space, take gravity off, give them some relaxing music, give them a nice space to just be. And just be somewhere.
Decompress mentally and everything.
Yeah. The whole thing.
So when you first feel them and you feel like, okay, this is tight, but I'm going to hook them up to the machine, you give them 10 minutes, you come back, and then you touch them again, and you feel a difference?
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
It's not every time,
Mhm.
because not everyone's going to have that dramatic of a
Right.
change,
And
but
not everyone's built the
it
same.
happens enough that you're like,
Yeah.
there's
Like,
something
this
in the
works.
sauce.
Yeah.
Just have to be here.
Yeah.
And that's not just here. It's just anywhere that
Yeah.
gives you time to know that this time's for you.
Yeah.
Relax. The world just got shut off.
Yeah.
I had a lady come in and walked in the other day, and she literally just stood at the front and takes a big breath and goes, I swear,
Oh.
my world just always changes when I come in here. It's like a vacation. And I got goosebumps down my back when she said it. I was like,
I
that's
love
what I
that.
was looking for.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to create.
I love that.
Sherwin-Williams in this color palette is what I was
great
aiming for that to happen.
Okay, so biopsychosocial and how they all connect.
Yep.
Do you see how it all connects with, let's say, athletes or anyone that gets an injury? Do you feel like sometimes if you're not well aware of your psycho state, your psychosis, maybe psychosis, that's not the right.
Psychosis would actually be a problem.
Yeah.
Just your psychology.
Psychology.
Just your,
I was like, wait, psychosis.
wow,
that's
she's
the
really
wrong.
knocking my patient base. Goodness.
Psychosis. No, if somebody is like an athlete, let's say, and their psychology is not, like, let's just say they're having like some mental stress or mental anxiety from work, and it's all piling up and building up. And then let's say the social factor is a thing too. Like maybe because of all the stress from work and all the stuff that they have to do at work, they don't get as much time to go do their classes with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So everything starts to like kind of trickle. Do you see how does it eventually get to a point where maybe they're more prone to like twisting their ankle on that trail run, or do you see how like mental tension can start to like build up to the point where it starts to affect their physical self and can cause injury or make them more prone to injury?
It'll depend.
Okay.
An athlete will go through a season of it in a year, but it's not their everyday. I would say the everyday person deals with more trauma and more stress on the body than an NFL athlete does.
Wow.
I think it's wild that I'm even saying that statement. If you would have asked me that 3 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, because it doesn't make any sense.
That's great.
It doesn't make any sense. An NFL athlete is taking less punishment than my everyday person that comes in here.
Wow.
And that's because an athlete, and especially collegiate or professional, they are, again, back to John, the triathlete, they're systematized. They control their everyday. They have to. Otherwise, they will lose an edge. It's all about gaining an edge. So they have to be mentally strong or it's not going to happen.
Okay.
They have to hit their workouts or it's not going to happen. They have to change it up a little bit. They have to cross-train. They have to do other stuff. College athletes will dwindle a little bit with this because they're still learning. They're still learning what's out there, what's available outside of their training room, because the training room is almost like another high volume office that I used to work in. There's like 3 or 4 main trainers. There's a main trainer and a couple of attendees and things. And they can only spend a handful of minutes. And some of them are just beginning their career of even treating a patient. So they don't get enough reps out of different types of people and different types of different walks of life, because even though they're all playing the same sport, they come from different backgrounds, a bunch of them. So you don't know what you're dealing with because you only deal with only an athlete. I pick up a pig skin and I do something with it, right? So back to your question though, I would say in seasons, an athlete will experience some type of transition where they might deal with injury just due to the other things in my circles, but it happens way less. I have to worry about the everyday person a little bit more when it comes to that, controlling the circles.
Yeah.
Because the athletes have an outlet.
True.
The other people don't. They have a 9 to 5. They have a family. They have different types of financial obligations than a college athlete or a pro athlete. College players are getting paid now, right?
Yeah.
And they're on scholarships for 4 years. They're living okay.
Yeah.
And then the pro athlete, they're professionals. Yeah. They're okay.
Yeah.
It's the people that have to go do their 9 to 5 or do their high stress job, and then come home, take care of a family, come home, take care of bills, come home, and they have to skip certain hours of sleep. They have to skip certain amounts of water, a certain amount of good nutrition because they don't have enough time, or at least they don't perceive themselves as having enough time. It's easier than you expect to control your food. It just takes preparation and knowledge base. Again, fear, anxiety, lack of understanding. And then you're not getting prepared for your week because you don't really know how to prepare for it yet. Yeah. So we talk about that stuff a lot. But those seasons that athletes will go through, it's mostly off-season stuff where their world switches. Okay. All of a sudden, they're not reporting to a coach. Yeah. And they're out in the free world on their own. Yeah. They go through a season of things getting a little bit off base because their world's just a little bit different. And I would say it's in small chunks of time through the year that they kind of become a little bit more problematic, or, life really did hit them. They did lose somebody, or they don't know if that team's going to pick them up, right? That can happen sometimes. Or, we had people come through from MTSU that needed to make it into the draft, and they were working for that kind of stress. Pressure. College is over. This is what I just spent 4 years, more than 4, my whole life. Yeah. I need to make it to the big show. And so they were experiencing, we got to meet some of them. They were experiencing higher levels of stress. Back to the original, athletes less, everyday people more, which you would have asked me 3 years ago. I thought that table would be turned. It's pretty crazy. But I can see. Life hard. Yeah. Life harder than people big man hit you. I can see what you mean by that. Did you want to give one more testimonial of the whole biopsychosocial? I guess we can say it. My mom, when she came in her instance, where you started digging deep, asking her questions. Yeah. And then you got to a question that she was like, your mom had a party trick and it was really cool. So she can just read it. So she did this and then she started creating pops on her own. So she just danced with the head like this. Very loud pops. Very unwanted. She didn't want that. It was an unwanted pop. Unwanted pop. But she noticed that it just started when where was she living now? She was in Kuwait. She was in Kuwait. And it was like a few months ago that it started. Yeah. And then during the first of the move, a transition. I talk about transitionary states all the time. Yeah. I let people understand that the season you're in is because you're in a transitionary state. You're going to stabilize. Yeah. It'd be okay. So moving to Kuwait, a new country, new everything, but then away from your dad, away from my dad, away from home. And then my dad had the medical issue in December. And so all of it, call that stress, piled up, buttoning up into one gift. Call it stress. Hugely. So her stress brought in tightness in her body. Tissues were kind of locked down like that. So I had to first just diagnose the fact that, is it coming from a joint or is it coming from tissue? If it comes from the joint, she shouldn't be able to do it over and over. Okay. If it comes from the tissue because it's tight, that means it's just popping over some sort of bony prominence or something like that. So it's coming from the soft tissue more than the hard joint tissue or anything like that. So once we figured that out, all it took, we fixed her incessant popping with just me telling her to relax, squeeze a few tissues, hold them, press them, give it some love, give it some heat. I didn't even adjust her. See, that's the problem too. So a lot of chiropractors we're a hammer, everything's a nail. So I'm going to adjust this lady. I took 90% of her problem away with just the fact of squeezing the traps in the right spot, getting the neck muscles to relax, trying some soft tissue work, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's all gone. Yeah. And then you pile that on to the understanding that it's because you're under a stress environment right now. How much weight comes off your back if you just understand the problem? A lot of anxiety comes from the fact that you don't understand. You don't realize it's happening. It's this big question mark. So the mystery is scarier than the actual problem. So that's what was happening with her. Yeah. And then you give her one or two exercises or stretches. Oh yeah, she's doing great now. Which she does. And I told her that it might come back in 2 or 3 days, but it should be less. But the more you work into it, the heating pad.
It's all helped, yeah.
It's my cheapest advice.
That's
And I'll
awesome.
probably say it to everyone.
Yeah.
Heating pad.
Okay.
Because we were icing things too much. It's the quickest fix to getting tension out of the body because it mimics like a massage. It increases blood flow. So what a massage does is, instead of just what we understand is just breaking down tissue, a lot of the major benefits of massage is just fluid flow.
Okay.
So heat creates fluid flow.
Okay.
Your body's already engineered to heal and maintain itself. Just increase its own abilities.
Yeah.
Heating pad does that fantastically. General exercise, fluid flow. Okay. They're already doing studies now that say you have a calf injury. So your main thing in functional rehab is to go after the calf. Work out the calf, work out the front of the leg, work down hamstrings, quads, all the way to the hip. Just general exercise had higher or as equal improvements as direct targeted exercise for a calf injury or whatever tissue they're aiming for. Okay. And at the end of the day, the methodology is the same. Move the fluid around. It stays stuck in one spot. Your body has healing mechanisms. It knows how to do things. Just help it along. That's part of what happens in here, which cheap advice ends up pays out a lot in this office.
Yeah. It's my mom, point in case. Like, she's over there with her heating pad. I'm with her on FaceTime. She's like, hey, girl.
Your mom was a ball.
She loves it. So that heating pad, I know you've sung the heating pad praises left and right. And so for anyone experiencing injury, what do you recommend after an injury? Like, I'm a runner, so most common thing with runners.
I'm a runner. She's a runner now. Yeah. I can say that. You've spent longer than a month now, like going after it.
It's legit.
I'm a runner. Careful, it's a cult.
It is a cult. Oh my, very good one. I highly recommend.
That's a religion you should just pray into.
Everyone join our cult.
Yeah.
But most common injuries are like rolled ankles. Like Allie just rolled her ankle this past weekend, and then the shin splints. But so, what do you recommend for us runners with those two like common injuries? With
runners like Allie, stop doing so much. She doesn't even know I know her, but like, I'm kidding. You're giving these windows of life where you can push your body past the limits and recover 100% fine. She's testing it out, and a lot of people that I work with are testing that out, and good. It's the time to do it. Go for it. Yeah. Live this life. Like, do some damage and see if you can recover from it. Just do it smart.
Yeah.
But simple answer to that is, if you're dealing with a new problem or pain, it's almost always ice for the first. So I'll rewind the clock. So the method was called RICE, RICE. Rest, ice, compress, elevate. Okay. The problem was half of that equation was really bad advice. Even the guy that created RICE method is the one that led the charge to reverse it.
No.
32 or 30 something years later. So we were resting too much and icing too much. Okay. So we needed to take away the ice. It wasn't 3 times a day for several weeks or many days in a row. No. The method now is within 6 hours. Acute trauma, 6 hours. Within 6 hours, you're supposed to ice. After 6 hours, on and off. Like 15 minutes. Right. Never go over 20. Okay. If you go over 20, you start negating the positive effects of ice because you're not creating a reaction, you're creating an environment, which I have to say a lot in here. Don't lay on your heating pad for 3 hours. No, we're not trying just to make you into a warm room. No, we're trying to create blood flow and then let it go. Okay. So you're triggering a reaction. Okay. Ice 15, 20 minutes in the first 6 hours. You can go on and off. I like the skin to get back down to normal body temperature, so it usually takes 20 or 30 minutes. Okay. And then you can ice again. That's only the first 6 hours.
Yeah.
I have stretched that out to a day or 2. Okay. I try to stay at less than 24 hours, but sometimes, depending on the person, quality of life, whether they're a 65-year-old or a 22-year-old, that advice fluctuates some. But a general rule of thumb, ice in the very short term.
Okay.
6 hours to 48 hours tops.
Okay.
15, 20 minutes. And then quickly after, you're moving to heat as fast as possible. If you want to be safe about it, you can do contrast, which is like a 1-to-1 ratio. 5 and 5, 10 and 10, 15, 15.
Oh, so ice pad, then heat pad, ice pad, then heat. Okay.
Out with the bad, in with the good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can do contrast if you're feeling skittish about heat. That's a quick way to get things going. Otherwise, if you're now out of acute phase where I can't even put weight on, I can put weight on it now. I can touch it with very mild tenderness, move to heat, and move the thing.
Okay.
Heat, go for a walk. Let's just say it's a rolled ankle. Try to walk as much as you can. If you need to brace it while you walk, good, go. As long as you're moving. I just need you moving as fast as possible. You do not need to go home and sit on the couch for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You need to go home, get it out of the acute phase of pain.
Okay.
Do the quick cold, do the contrast. Within 2 to 3 days, as long as nothing's broken, get to moving. Now, that moving can be different for everybody, depending on pain tolerance, tissue composition, all those things. If it's moving in a pull, go. If it is just pumping your little ankles while you're doing your 9 to 5 job, move.
Okay.
It's just move the body part, move the fluid.
Okay.
So that when you are not able to eat, you are still moving fluid around.
Yeah.
This isn't the only heartbeat you have. Every muscle on your body is another heartbeat that gets to move fluid around. The blood flow through my arm is improving just because of me doing this.
Okay.
Me twisting my ankle around and pushing and pumping. That changes the blood flow through my peripheral tissues. So just get it moving.
Okay. And you mentioned the contrast therapy of like hot and cold.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, well, I was going to ask you just other modalities to help, but I want to ask you in particular about cold plunging. So
I knew it.
At this one place in particular, so they have 3 modalities. So she likes for you to go in this particular order where it's like the first thing you do is 20 minutes in the red light therapy, and then 30 minutes in the hot sauna, and then directly from the hot sauna into the cold plunge for at least 1.5 minutes, or somewhere between 1.5 minutes and 3 minutes. Feels like you're dying.
That's what it's meant to do. It's called survival mode for a reason.
So what are your thoughts on, because you mentioned hot and cold, would that be something you would...
With a grain of salt, I think it's a beautiful thing to be doing with the body. You're pushing it to its limits in a very low force, low stress way, in quick succession too. Is it starting to be overdone a little bit? We're seeing some things sneak out that you shouldn't put the body under fight or flight so severely, so often, all the time.
Oh, okay.
I think cold plunges by themselves can be overdone. I think the combination of hot to cold can be overdone.
Okay.
Now, this will go against anyone that listens to Joe Rogan that does it friggin' every day. But I would say there's certain types of people that shouldn't do it all the time. And there's certain types of people that it doesn't matter if they did it every day. But you got to know who you are. And that's the big one. So if you are noticing a decline in mood, a decline in appetite, a decline in how well you sleep, a decline in brain fog, any kind of other functions of your body that just kind of feels off and you don't know where it's coming from, rewind the clock.
Just pay attention.
What have you changed in the past 2 or 3 months? Right. If it's excessive cold plunges and I've been doing it every day for a month, well, that's a little too much. There is always too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
But overall, across the board, cold plunging, good.
Yeah.
As long as you can handle it. I'm not getting in one. I'm
totally. I'll give you my
I will.
code.
I'll do it. I was built for the tropics. This
I mean, same here, but every once
have
in
you
a
done
while,
it?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I was gonna die.
Good for you. I've put a leg in before and I got her straight out. Saunas I can do. Cryo tubes I can do. Spot cryo I can do.
What's spot cryo?
Spot cryo is just like a wand that shoots out frozen blasts.
Almost like a yeah.
So love those for athletes. Love those in general. But basically what we're talking about is using temperature to push the body to survival mode.
Okay.
Which is usually a good thing.
Okay.
We're not pushing our bodies to those kind of physical barriers enough that we're not triggering enough adaptations in our regular everyday life that tells the body, hey, you can do that.
Yeah.
So there's massive benefits in all my 3 circles.
Yeah.
40 to
Right.
50 degrees is optimal. I'll have to remember. It's
It
been a while
feels
since I
like
did the research.
you're being stabbed.
Yes. Yeah. We should all do that.
It's so much fun.
No, the reason why I said it's hitting all 3 circles is because a lot of these cold plunges now, it's in the backyard of some building and it's horse. There's tons of people around. It becomes a social engagement.
Yeah.
So you're unifying something. I think that's the secret sauce to a lot of people's cold plunge setups or these group style health events.
Yeah.
Is that there is a social aspect to it.
Yeah.
And you are solving one of those circles big time.
Yeah.
And then the psychology of it is you survived.
Yeah.
I went into something very difficult and I was able to do it. And if you can do it at repetition, that means you're always stressing your mentality to survive for 3 minutes. Yeah. The body gets the benefit too. So, cold plunges in particular hits many levels at the same time. Saunas at the same level, many levels at the same time. Yeah. Because you are stressing your body, which in those survival moments, all your blood flow goes away from the peripheral tissues. I don't need to move my fingers right now. I need to motivate my heart, my lungs, my kidneys, my liver to survive. There's anecdotal evidence of like, it's basically good for increasing metabolic rates. It's good for detoxifying the body because it makes you run your system more efficiently. Everything that was stuck out there gets to get bundled into all the organ systems a little bit more efficiently. Yeah. So there's anecdotal evidence that says that other things can happen to the body. But I think primarily what you're doing is you're pushing the body to the limit. Yeah. You're triggering adaptations, and that's always a good thing. So hot and cold recommended, especially for after an injury. And is there anything else you recommend? I know you mentioned heating pad. Anything else you recommend or you see that you frequently recommend to your clients where you're like, oh, that's an easy fix, or that's something that you could do at home, and then they do it and then they come back with word to you that, oh, it's working. Like, thank you so much for recommending that. Is there any, I don't know, thing? Yeah, it's just not sexy to say it. Sleep. Water. Yeah. I'm almost exhausted from having to have this conversation all the time. You wonder why. Then you ask, how's sleep? Oh, pretty good. So when people say pretty good, it's like a bold-faced lie. It's
They're like,
first
all
lie.
4 hours
Oh, like,
are great.
we're going to start off on a really good foot. We're not going to tell the truth. It's okay. Everyone always says pretty good. Oh, man, good. The longer it takes to say the next word is almost always a telltale sign. Yeah. Is it pretty good? Good. Well.
Then comes the well.
Oh, boy. Okay. If you get well, oh, man. They haven't drank since last Saturday. Yeah. No. That's 3 of my main pieces of advice come from heating pad, sleep, water. Yeah. It's not happening enough. It's going to change your whole world around if you drink more than just 1 bottle of water a day, or cut out the Diet Coke. Why is Diet Coke so popular? I don't understand. And then Diet Mountain Dew is coming in a quick second. I don't know where that's coming from. I didn't even know people said the words Mountain Dew anymore. But then you get so they're replacing their water with bad water. Too much. Not that coffee's a bad thing. It's just when you drink a cup of coffee, it's 6 to 8 ounces of water, and they think they just had their liquids for half their day.
That's the lie I tell myself every morning when I have
Is it?
When I have my coffee.
You're one of them. Have your coffee. I have my water too. It's okay because, and again, this is another hill I won't die on, and it will go against some people in holistic medicine, and that's okay. But caffeine doesn't dehydrate you like they thought. All right, the science is in that they don't think that that's really a thing. So I don't negate the fact that you're drinking caffeine. I negate the fact that it's only 8 ounces of water you need, and that's not enough.
No, I'll have water on top of that afterwards. But I definitely start off, and then I just tell myself that I'm drinking. I'm like, well, there's water in it.
So one of my biggest free pointers is buy one. I'm not plugging this. I don't have this on my Amazon account. Like, just get a bottle. Yeah. Get a bottle you like. Get a bottle you like carrying. Yeah. Get a bottle that fits in your backpack. Make it convenient to have water with you all the time. Then you'll get to the point where if you drink 4 of these, you'll feel dehydrated at the end of the day. Still, It's because your body has trained you not to ask for it. And by the time it asks for it, because you're chronically dehydrated, you've been dehydrated for 2 weeks. Like if you're not drinking, let's start low. If you're not drinking 60 ounces of water a day, and you move more, if you exercise at least twice a week for 30 minutes, and you're not averaging 60 ounces of water a day, you're chronically dehydrated. If you have to walk more than 6,000, 8,000 steps a day, you're not drinking 60 ounces of water, you're probably chronically dehydrated.
Ooh, how does that start to present itself in the physical layer?
I hurt more often. I'm more prone to injury. There's your more prone to injury, if anything, with athletes, because I had a guy in here just today. He is ex-CrossFitter. He got punished enough. He finally quit. Good for him. But he moves a lot. He has a ton of muscle mass on him, but he hurts everywhere. Everywhere. Tendinitis. Everywhere.
Wow.
All over the place. Just jumps around. And yes, there was a couple of things we associated in his workout plan that, knowing a little bit about functional rehab, I go, oh, you got to take that out. You can have this, though. And I gave him some other stuff to help him, but he wasn't drinking enough water. Dude, you move way too much. You're 54. You have 180 pounds of meat on you, and you look fit, obvious fit. Like from afar, you know the guy's fit. Yeah. And he doesn't drink enough water, and you have tendinitis everywhere. Yeah. That's how it portrays. Okay. If you think you are prone to joint pain, and it's not just one spot, it's multiple. Because everyone can have a bad knee. Who doesn't have an old football injury? Or some old, I used to sprain my ankle there all the time. Or had that one fall, that one traumatic event. But you have that one body part that can always flare up when you're under other stress, other circles. But if it's popping up, oh, it's my shoulder. Oh, no. Oh, it's general achiness. That should be the first thing you look at. How much water am I having? Okay. Second one, though, another unsexy answer. Sleep. No one's sleeping enough. How does that manifest? Same way. Oh, okay. Exactly. So ask yourself both. Yeah. Am I drinking enough water? I tell people you got to dumb it down. Ask yourself the simple things every time you start to hurt or your body feels bad. You don't feel good. Checks and balances. It's usually you can usually answer in the first two, and I usually talk about three. It's water, sleep, nutrition. Okay. Of course, moving. So it's four. But the first two almost always gets it because you're not drinking enough water and you're still moving this much. Oh, you are eating good. Typically, right now, people are starting to eat better across the board. Don't know what's happened in the last couple of years, but people just became more conscious. I don't have to bring up food near as often, which is blowing my mind. Nice. It's just something I've noticed. Water and sleep, still the thing. I have to beat it like a dead horse. Okay. I had a guy, his career is in yoga, travels the world, and he couldn't tell me how much water he drinks and how much he slept. Oh, man. He's in the healing arts and he doesn't know those two things because they're easy to just not think about. I'm doing other things right, and you skip two of the biggest things that can change your world around like that. So just to recap. Sleep. Get plenty of sleep. Drink plenty of water. Yeah. Monitor those things. Yeah. So if you're feeling any kind of pains and aches, that's usually a sign. Take stock, take inventory, ask yourself, how much sleep am I getting? How much water am I drinking? Yeah. And then you also recommend the heating pad. It's like your number one go-to. And you mentioned hot and cold therapies too. Yeah. You're a fan of. It's the top layer of the funnel, right? The further you get down, the more specific you can get. Yeah. More complex you can get and more cool, right? the stuff that'll grab the most attention, right? But there was something very key the way you said that. Take stock, take inventory. We're just not doing that enough. Yeah. If you just did that, like took a time at the end of your week to say, I did this, I did this. These are the things I need to concentrate on. And then take stock and take inventory. Did I do those things? Yeah. And if you didn't, am I still experiencing my pain, my problem? because everybody wants the quick fix.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I have to take out of their education when they come into here, because that's what our standard medical model gave you.
Mhm.
I have this, give me this.
Mm.
And then a handful of days you should be fixed because I took the pill or had the surgery or something like that, something quick. But to go forward in other modalities, the it gets fun because you get to be a little bit more creative. And one of the things we were trying out for a little while was sound healing, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
So some of my advice, especially in the 3 circle model, the psychology part.
Mhm.
Now, I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist. It's not in my scope of practice. I can let someone kind of know that, you're going through a season right now. It's tough. The body's probably feeling it a little bit,
Mhm.
but it's not my job to go into that type of treatment. Now, I
Mhm.
can tell you things that will help, which sound healing is one of them. And what's really great about sound healing, sound therapy, they're still working on the nomenclature. Again, I'm not dying on any terminology. What is good about some of my advice is that I ask people to meditate.
Mhm.
People are really bad at meditating. First, they got to try to find the time. And then when they find the time, they're like, what am I supposed to do again? I just sit here?
Yeah.
Hard for people to sit there.
Really hard.
Hard for people to quiet the mind. Hard to do the breath work.
Mhm.
Your brain just starts going other places.
Mhm.
It takes monks and Buddhists decades to meditate perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to ask the guy with a 9 to 5 or the lady with a 9 to 5 or with kids, just hectic world to, hey, quiet your mind. Like, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
But sound healing is a beautiful thing that if you step into it,
Mhm.
it puts meditation on autopilot.
Yeah.
It takes your brain waves that are here and brings them here,
Mhm.
or here and brings them here. It just kind of puts you in an automatic homeostasis.
Yeah.
In the optimum wave patterns that the brain and body want to feel that will be optimal to them, especially people that do these sound healing, sound therapies, call themselves facilitators. If you have a good facilitator of those sounds, then you can have an exceedingly good experience. You can get to the point where they know what kind of bowl to use or what kind of chimes to ring or what kind of hum to do, because your body is just a bundle of different communications happening right now.
Yep.
My heart's talking to my brain. My blood is talking to the tissues it's feeding. Everything is communication and chemistry.
Mhm.
Everything is frequencies. So they believe that, and the science is coming out. I'm not, uh, I don't fall into frou-frou too much, but
No, there's
the
science. Yeah.
science is there.
Mhm.
The body harmonizes at certain frequencies. And luckily we're in Music City. So these places of sound and understanding that music does something to you. It
Oh, yeah.
moves you. It's the international language nobody really wants to talk about, because it doesn't matter where you listen to Dave Matthews. It's going to sound good. So music, and when you take it into sound healing and therapies under specific frequencies, under certain harmonies, and everyone has their own tone, their own music. If you find a facilitator that fits you, it's kind of like finding your really good massage therapist. This goes deeper though.
Yeah.
A lot of things and a lot of treatments stay very much on the surface, even mine. I dry needle. I'm pushing it through the tissue, but I'm only going so far.
Mhm.
Chiropractic, it does involve the nervous system to a degree. I'm mostly putting range of motion in the spine, but it does trigger a change in communication. So
Mhm.
I'm lightly touching deeper areas of the neurology, but think about sound. It touches you to your
Yeah.
core.
Yeah.
Can you even like rewind your brain to the point where you walked into a music festival concert where it felt like the music speaking to you and changes your world? That is
Absolutely.
depth.
It can change you on like a fundamental level. There's actually studies done where they play a certain frequency. Like in one case, I remember it sounded like an opera singer, like a high pitched tone, and she held a note, or it was just a note that was being played at a really high frequency, and they had sand on a glass plate and
Yes.
it vibrates.
Did you send me that?
I think I may have. I sent
Someone
it to
said
everyone.
that. Someone said that was really cool.
And it forms like this beautiful symmetrical shape on the plate, creating symmetry, like a snowflake.
Mhm.
And yeah. Oh, and then somebody played like This was another study done, and I can't remember the doctor's name. I'll put it on the screen when I find it, but I think it's Emoto, Dr. Emoto. He did this study with water, and it's not sound, but there is sound correlated in the study. He wanted to get 2 beakers of water, and he put tape with words on them on each beaker, and one beaker had positive affirmations, and then the other beaker was like, you're ugly, you're fat, negative. And then he wanted to study the water under a microscope, and as you might expect, the results were that there were beautiful formations, almost crystallized formations that were symmetrical, and Fibonacci sequences in this water, and then chaotic.
We're going Fibonacci. I like it.
Chaotic in the latter.
Get your aluminum hats on, people.
We're going Fibonacci. And so this one was the opposite. And then he did other studies where he left the water in a room playing opera and classical music. He left this water in a room with heavy metal music.
Yeah.
And so that's where the sound kicks in. But that sound of heavy metal created like chaos and disaster in the water molecules as opposed to this. So it just goes to show that there is something with sound.
There is.
There is. And so I'm so glad you're mentioning that.
Another cool one you can look up is there is a guy that turned the periodic table. You know what the periodic table is? All the chemistry that we know of in the known universe.
Right.
He turned those electronic signals because every chemical gives out a chemical signal, a frequency. So he turned that into music. So if that doesn't tell you anything, that I can make helium into a sound, I can take neon and convert it into something you can hear.
That's crazy.
Then all of a sudden, and he did a comparative how they sound and feel, and something about the way he combined the music for some of the elements that are natural to us, not neon. We don't have a lot of neon or anything like that, but he played the music that are the chemical elements of our body. It sounded beautiful in comparison to other things that he played where the chemical component doesn't really mix correctly in nature.
Whoa.
So he took what mixes correctly in nature and what doesn't mix correctly in nature and made better music with what combines.
Wow.
And that just blew my head off. Like, it was incredible that someone could even do that in the first place.
Yeah.
But then make the correlation that sounds, the better it sounds, the better it actually connects on a cellular or an atomic level.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
That's crazy. Yeah. So there are a lot more studies coming out, and so don't worry, you don't sound frou-frou, woo-woo.
Only a little bit.
I
want to be on the edge. I want to be on like really close, but
that's where the magic happens. The edge. Yeah.
I just don't want to fall off.
Right.
So I take everything with a grain of salt always until I see use cases or I experience it myself. And I did do sound therapy in here, and I felt different coming out of it. I felt warmth at my core. It was very strange to experience that someone's just sound was traveling in the room. She had it all set up, and it was beautiful, and it was fantastic to kind of share that moment. And I felt better leaving. I felt lighter that day. Kind of felt I just felt more in tune. That was really cool. And when I finally find a way to fully envelop that somehow into the office, then that's ultimately my goal. The recovery studio is ambiguous for a reason. You don't really know what you're recovering from or how when you first come in, but hopefully we get on that journey together and we both come up with a solution that fits you and that can maintain you and take you from where you are to where you need to be and can stay with the right amount of education. So solving those circles as much as I possibly can inside of my scope of practice is part of my goals. So sound therapy, that's something I want to implement at some point in time. But simple other methods with, if you don't can get a facilitator or find your nice music. Breathwork's another one of them that it's free. Air's already out there. Maybe there's some bad air, but for the most part, if you go outside, you can breathe that air as long as you're on this planet.
Box breathing.
Box breathing. That's the one. Easiest one is box breathing. Certain amount of seconds here, certain amount of seconds here. So it's breath in, hold it, breath out, hold it, breath in. The guys doing the research said between 2 to 8 seconds.
Okay.
Should be a part of your box.
Yeah.
And mine is 7. I chose 7. Feels like that fits my lung capacity and not change my efforts too much.
Yeah.
You just feel different after. Athletes should do it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you have your hardest workout. Dr. Alec in East Nashville said 80% of the time, it should feel like you have 80% left in the tank. 15% of the time, you used to say, oh my gosh, that killed me. 5% of the time, you should go meet your maker. And I thought that was hysterical. But through those workouts that feel very tough, and it's more than just that 80%. I only use 80%. I got more left in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
It is very good to deregulate your body very fast afterwards.
Okay.
There's a guy that started a company called Biomolecular Athlete, where he basically hotwires your body and trains athletes through nutrition, through timing recoveries, other modalities, things that we're talking about today that I've touched on a little bit, that if you deregulate after being highly amped up and deregulate really fast, you trigger a much larger, much stronger adaptogenic response. And that's everything that we should be aiming for. Cold and hot that we were just talking about, adaptogenic responses.
Yeah.
Settling down, going back there, that's a change in adaptation. As soon as you walk in the door, you're up here.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes laying down.
Yeah.
Music, stim, heat, adapt. So that's what we do beautifully as human beings, is adapt. So if you do breath work right after a very high intense workout, you're going to notice your recovery times actually change.
Wow.
In a dramatic way, especially if you make it a regularity.
Nice. And I got this watch that has an app that I use, and it tracks like my water and everything. It does like your blood pressure and stuff.
Yeah.
The water thing is
wearables are awesome.
Yeah.
This is how I track my sleep, and I'm religious with it.
So that's another thing that could help people with sleep and water. Because at least I know I'm tracking those two things for sure, and can look back and see like, oh, I got this much in REM cycle, and versus,
Exactly.
And then water reminders too. It'll like beep and let me know.
That's cool.
When I need to.
I've never had to set that up with my watch before.
You probably have that option too.
Because I have the bottle that never leaves me. So I fill this up 4 times.
Yeah. Last question.
Yeah.
If somebody listening right now is like, okay, I want to go see Dr. Shay, but they're still like on the cusp, like, I'm not all the way there, but I think I do want to book an appointment with him. Is there anything that a resource or a blog or a book that you can point them to? Like, hey, maybe you're not ready to see a chiro just yet, but read this first.
Oh man, that's a tough question. Here's the difference with a lot of people that end up finding me, is that they're mostly already dealing with a problem. If you have a problem, I'm here to help you fix it. If your body's already hurting and you've tried other things, it's time. If it's been, I think it's more of those take stock, take inventory moments. If you feel like you're not at your optimal and you want someone to assist you with figuring out what's happening in your life that can change or can be fixed or trained to make you improve and make your life better, then a good place to start is in the world of chiropractic. Just because we are not aiming to get you on a drug. We're not aiming to solve your problems with a surgery. We're aiming to improve your lifestyle. Now, some people do it better than others, but bar none, holistic healthcare, you should have someone in your back pocket. If you do not have someone in your back pocket for holistic healthcare and to give a good wide scope of how your life is without trying to solve it with a diagnosis code, then go for it. Now, if anything resonates with what you feel and that I've said today, then come to see me. That'd be great.
Where can people find you? What's your give them all the details.
TheRecoveryStudio.co. Just request an appointment. It'll take you straight to my online scheduler. You don't even have to talk to me, even though I'd like to. If you get onto my website and request a time, you can actually book a free phone consult for 15 minutes, or your first new patient appointment right there without ever having to speak to me. So it's all in your control. But my last note on that is if it just feels like you're ready to improve and you're dealing with something that is keeping you from improving and to live life at your fullest best, then please come in. There's no harm in having a conversation. If there's something I can help you out with, we'll figure it out. The one thing I'll tell you is I'm not going to waste your time. So,
Y'all heard it here. Dr. Shay at the Recovery Studio in Berryhill is here to give you a functional approach to healthcare. Thanks for being
thank
with us.
you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Nashville Wellness Collective podcast. Thank you again to Dr. Shay Glenn, chiropractor and owner of the Recovery Studio in Berryhill, Nashville. For more exclusive behind-the-scenes footage and giveaways, be sure to follow us on social media at the Nashville Wellness Collective, and to peruse our directory of practitioners, visit us online at TheNashvilleWellnessCollective.com. Until next time, remember the Nashville Wellness Collective has got you covered from east to west.